Hello again. I read the comments on my previous post and utilized the advice given to me. I saw someone mention something about sitting in the static and looking for the light. I went to respond to the comment, but the thing standing inches behind me got louder. Static it gave off increased in volume and intensity to the point where I felt my left ear start to bleed. I stopped responding to the comment and the static went back to normal. It seems that direct communication with the outside world isn't allowed, or something like that. Still, I followed the advice and sat in the dark looking for a light. I didn't find one. I grew frustrated and the static that surrounded me didn't help. After some thought, I decided to examine the thing that was been looming behind me for what felt like an hour or two. I stood up and turned on my film light to look at the thing. It was even more disgusting now that I was inches from it. Its face was entirely featureless apart from two pin-sized holes that led to darkness. I can presume that those are its eyes. The thing stood there like a statue. It didn't move and just stared over me, like it lacked the ability to move its neck. However, it must have noticed me looking at its face. It moved. It very slowly moved its head down, its neck creaking like old wood as it did so. Finally, it was most certainly looking at me. I stared into the small empty holes and felt like I was being watched, studied. The dark feeling started to loom in the pit of my stomach as my body entered the fight or flight response. My body's reaction to the sting was incredibly strong, and I felt immense discomfort from being in its immediate presence. Suddenly, without my control, my arm flung up and poked the thing in one of its eye holes. The static grew louder again, causing my body to feel weak. I knelt on the ground and lay in fetal position, covering my eyes. The static increased until nothing. The thing had gone and the tower was back. I was overjoyed. I felt filled with excitement and relief. After a while, I checked the clock. It still read 1:13 a.m. I thought about the fact that the power had come back. I don't understand how or why. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot out from my hand and ran up my arm. I yelped and looked down. My finger had slightly corroded. The tip of my index finger was almost decayed looking, as if I had dipped it in acid. Must have been from contact with the thing. The pain wore off and I decided to head home to plaster it. The sheets felt safer now that the lights were back on. On my way back, I saw the thing again. It was far off in the distance like the first time I saw it. Well, this time it was shaking slightly. It was almost like it had been reset. Odd. I spent some time reading through more of the comments. Falloutio mentioned that there are no 7-Elevens in the UK right now. This fact lay completely over my head during the time I visited it. I thought that I should return to the store in search of something useful. My logic was that if it isn't meant to be there, it may hold something I could use. The store was normal, filled with food and other store items. I checked the back area, and that too was normal, until I noticed the bulletin board. On the center of the back wall was a large bulletin board covered with notes, photos, and other items. The first photo was of the thing. The photo was labeled as the static sloth. It had a note attached to it. It read, "The static is a peculiar-looking creature, only being a torso and featureless head, aside from its small holes, that is carried around by its arms and sharp points. The thing gives off static and controls all phone lines, answering the phone every time you call one. It slowly approaches its victim over the course of approximately 1 month before it impales them with its arm. Contact with the static will cause the flesh at the contact area to corrode. Also, contact seems to The rest of the note had been torn off. The other photos were of a different creature. I presume they are from this place. None of them had names apart from one. The Brew. It depicted a large, grotesque-looking beast of multiple horns, spikes, claws, and even flames protruding out of its flesh. The other 5 photos depicted other creatures. I've decided to stay in this place as it provides what is almost like a safe zone. I need help here. What could the notes mean? Why did the power come back on? Why has the static gone back to its starting point? I should also mention that I'm seeing glimpses of people, like memories or flashbacks. Somewhat normal, and the others look like medical staff. Could this mean anything?